Halloween time, or Samhain as the old Irish name is for that season, is what's often referred to, certainly in the pagan circles, as the last harvest or the third harvest. And there's a good reason for that, which I'm going to talk about. I'm going to show you some things as well. So here we go. If you look at these blackberries, you can see they're all withered and, you know, they're gone. They've usually been eaten by now by birds or by people or other animals, but any that are left are often no good. And of course there's a tradition in Ireland that eating the blackberries after Halloween or the 31st of October, they're no good because, said the devil spat on them, or even worse, peed on them. And the reason is that quite often at this stage, if there are any left, they are infected with these tiny little worms, and not very nice, and some of them have fermented and gone rotten as well. Here's the last few raspberries. Still good. But as you can see, some of them are beginning to go bad. So I really should pick the rest of these before the frost, because as soon as there's a frost, all of these raspberries will be no good. And that could happen any minute. In fact, sometimes in the middle of October, you might get some frost already. See, look, that's gone bad, that one there. And the one next to it, that still looks okay, so I'm going to eat that one. Delicious. In fact, there was one apple still on this tree, but it fell off, and as you can see, it started to rot. Quite often the wasps will eat whatever apples are left over that you didn't pick. But as you can imagine, they need to have been picked and stored by now. So there's nothing left, and yeah, all the leaves are starting to just come away, and they're falling asleep gradually in preparation for the winter. Quite amazing, and there's still a few blueberries. There we go, very tiny, but there's still some. I'm picking them. Again, these will go bad once the frost hits. So, very nice. So for people like me who actually grow food, there's an understanding, a natural understanding, just by the very process of growing things and living with it and seeing the cycle as it happens. You realize that everything dies off in the winter. I've cut this rhubarb back here, you can see. That will just, these leaves will die off and it'll go back into the ground, come back up again in the spring. But there's a huge amount of death at this time of year. See, these raspberries are all beginning to die off. Some of them will come back, some of them will come as new shoots, so whatever's dead next year and doesn't come back, I've cut that away, you know. But this is the thing. So many plants die, they only live 1 year or 2 years or a short number of years. And that's just how it is in the natural world. There are very different time scales, from as short as 1 day up to a few weeks, a few months, a year, 2 years, or several years. For humans, we now expect to live at least to like our 70s, which is very different from what a lot of the natural world actually experiences. This really is the time when people used to have to collect up everything that's still edible that wouldn't survive through the winter. There are some root vegetables and things. There's winter cabbage, etc., which will last through the winter, leeks as well, a few other things. But a lot of what you'd pick, you'd have to store it, otherwise it would be destroyed by the weather or eaten by animals. And you'd have to do preserving and things like that to make sure that you actually had plenty of food. You know, this was really a matter of life and death to people. And not only veneration of our ancestors, but appealing to their ancestors and the gods to get them through what could often be extremely harsh winters. So, I mean, animals would quite commonly die in severe weather. Even today, you get sheep in the Highlands of Scotland and Northern Ireland who will die in very severe weather. And that's when there's all this modern technology, and there's big sheds to put them in quite often if they can be herded up. So can you imagine what it was like a few hundred years ago when there was no Super Value, no Tesco's, no Dunnes Stores, no whatever, Mace, Walmart, I suppose, and things like that in the States? What did people do then? There was no shop. There was maybe a local shop if you had money, but a lot of people didn't actually have any money. They would just have to subsist. So if you didn't have the food, you haven't prepared, you hadn't done the work, if you haven't harvested the last harvest, then you might not make it through to the springtime. So this stuff may seem silly to some people, but this is actually very real. This is a little bit of what I've harvested. Here's some of the apples. I've got a lot more which are in storage. There's some hairy bittercress, which is a wild ephemeral plant which tastes just like rockhead. There's those blueberries I picked. This is a capsicum pepper from the polytunnel. I managed to grow quite a lot of these actually. Here's some lettuce, late lettuce. It's still okay in the polytunnel for now until the heavy frosts. You might be wondering what this banana is doing with the tomatoes, but actually what happens is as the banana turns black, it helps ripen the green tomatoes. Some people put them inside a paper bag with banana, but I just have the banana on top here, as you can see. Here's a few cucumbers, again from the polytunnel, and this courgette. So I have a few more of these, but this is basically the last of it. This is the last of what I've grown all through this year. Since the spring I've been getting food, and it's now, well, almost the end of October, and this is more or less the last of it. There's a few more bits to pick, but very little, and certainly by Halloween itself there will be nothing left for me to harvest. And I think we find ourselves in times where some of this could be coming back, We don't know what's going to happen. In brutal wars, there can be energy blackouts, there can be food shortages, famine, all kinds of things. So, we've got used to having electric light and fridges and storage and instant everything just like that. But we cannot be sure that it will always be there. So I would say it's wise to actually become a bit of a prepper, to actually put things aside, to learn how to pickle, to learn how to make jams, to learn how to preserve things, how to do salting, how to do smoking, how to stock a larder up. These are all basic sort of household skills which are being forgotten to a large extent by many people. But we've no guarantee we won't be needing those skills once again, like our ancestors did.